Why is sex something everyone thinks about, something few dare to talk about? Maybe it's because silence feels safer than exposure. Because in a world where everyone's watching, vulnerability feels like a risk you can't afford. Scroll through any feed and it's their bodies, perfection, filters. But not the truth. Not the trembling voice behind the post, wondering if they're too much, too little, too late. Sex, the most human act, has become a performance, something to curate, compare, consume. For Gen Z, the line between intimacy and image has blurred. Desire is no longer private. It's public currency. You can see it in the way people talk about body count, as if affection were a scoreboard. You can feel it in the quiet panic of a hookup, that moment when someone's body is close but their mind feels galaxies away. They call it connection, but it often feels like disconnection dressed up in neon lights. In classrooms, sex is a warning. On the internet, it's a highlight reel. Rarely is it real. Rarely is it about touch or emotion, or the strange sacredness of being seen. And so, shame grows quietly, like mold under the surface of perfect lives. It whispers, don't talk about it. Don't admit you're confused. Don't say you feel empty afterward. Because everyone else seems fine. Everyone else seems free. But freedom without understanding isn't healing. It's noise. And that's the paradox of this generation. So sexually liberated, yet so emotionally lost. They can express anything online, but can't say I need love without irony. They can share nudes but not feelings. They crave closeness but fear rejection. So they mask pain with humor, filter loneliness with vibes, and chase validation that fades with every scroll. Somewhere in this chaos, a young woman sits on the edge of her bed, replaying messages she never sent. A young man scrolls through endless faces, searching for something he doesn't know how to name. A non-binary teen feels the quiet ache of not fitting into anyone's fantasy. They all share the same secret, the longing to be touched and understood, to be known not just for their body, but for their story. Society taught them that sex sells, but not that love heals. That pleasure is power, but not that silence is poison. And so they carry this inherited confusion, raised by screens, fed by ideals, haunted by comparison. Behind every chill attitude lies a storm of anxiety. Behind every confident pose, a question. Am I enough? The truth is, shame doesn't live in what we do. It lives in what we're afraid to say. The real wound isn't desire. It's disconnection. The distance between how we act and how we actually feel. When the world turned intimacy into performance, we lost the language of tenderness. We forgot that touch without presence is just friction. And yet, beneath the noise, something still whispers. There's more than this. Healing doesn't start with being perfect. It starts with being honest. The courage to say, I don't have it figured out. I'm scared. I want to understand. Because silence might protect your image, but truth protects your soul. Healing never looks like the movies. It's not a candlelit room or a single breakthrough conversation. Sometimes, it starts in a whisper, a late-night confession between friends, or a journal entry that finally tells the truth. Sometimes, it's the quiet realization that the shame wasn't yours to carry at all. Because shame is inherited. It comes from generations before you, passed down through silence and judgment. The church that called desire sinful. The parents who said, don't do that, but never said why. The teachers who skipped over the real questions, how it feels to be touched, to be seen, to be rejected. And so, a generation grew up fluent in sarcasm but illiterate in intimacy. For many, their first lessons about sex didn't come from love, but from pixels, porn scenes that taught performance, not connection. A boy learns to chase pleasure, not presence. A girl learns to fake confidence, not comfort. And no one talks about the loneliness that follows, that strange emptiness after the noise fades. Because who do you tell that you feel numb after something that was supposed to feel alive? When vulnerability becomes a liability, people build armor out of detachment. It's just a hookup, they say. No feelings. But their hearts know better. Beneath every casual encounter lies a quiet question. Will anyone stay if I stop pretending I'm fine? Social media amplifies this fear. Every post is a stage, every photo a performance. The world says, be bold, be sexy, be confident, but it never says, be human. No one warns that comparing yourself to others will slowly erode your sense of self. No one admits that scrolling through perfect bodies can make you hate your own reflection. So you learn to hide the parts that feel too soft, too sensitive, too real. And yet, even in this chaos, some people begin to speak. A girl in therapy says, I thought something was wrong with me. A boy admits, I don't know what intimacy really means. A survivor whispers, I want to feel safe again. These aren't grand declarations. They're quiet revolutions. Every honest word cracks the wall of shame a little wider. Because healing doesn't come from pretending you're fearless. It comes from letting the fear be seen. When you stop performing, you start existing. When you stop chasing perfection, you start feeling again. There's a power in saying, I don't know how to love yet. There's peace in admitting, I've been hurt. It's not weakness, it's awakening. You are not broken for wanting more than pleasure. You are not dramatic for needing gentleness. You are not naive for believing that sex can mean something. You are human, and that's the most courageous thing you can be. So maybe healing begins when you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what happened to me? And maybe, just maybe, when enough of us ask that question out loud, the silence finally breaks. There's a moment, quiet, unplanned, when the walls begin to fall. It's not cinematic. It's messy. It happens in dorm rooms, late-night car rides, unfinished conversations. A friend says, I felt used, and another nods because they felt it too. The air shifts. For the first time, honesty feels safer than pretending. In that silence, you realize something profound. No one ever taught us how to talk about sex. Not really. We learned the mechanics, the warnings, the rules, but not the language of feelings. Not how to say I felt unseen. Not how to ask, did you feel close to me? 2. We learned how to perform desire, not how to express it. And so, we mistook intensity for intimacy, validation for connection. The truth is, many young people today are fluent in attraction but strangers to affection. They can flirt, sext, and perform, but struggle to be present, to look into someone's eyes and stay. Because real intimacy isn't exciting at first. It's terrifying. It asks you to remove the armor that's kept you safe. It asks you to be seen, not curated. And that's the irony of it all. We've been told that freedom means no boundaries, but real freedom comes from safety. Safety to say no, safety to ask questions, safety to exist without shame. Without that, desire turns into anxiety, pleasure into guilt. Every encounter becomes a test of worth. Did they like me? Did I do enough? Am I lovable? It's not just personal, it's cultural. We live in a world that sells sex as empowerment but punishes vulnerability. A girl is praised for confidence until she speaks of regret. A boy is encouraged to chase but never to feel. Queer kids are told to be proud, but often left to heal alone. Society shouts, express yourself, while silencing any expression that doesn't fit the script. But something's changing. Slowly, a new language is emerging, not of shame, but of softness. People are learning to say, that didn't feel right. I need time. I want to feel close, not just physical. Words like consent, respect, and communication are no longer awkward. they're sacred. And those conversations, the ones that start with trembling voices, are rewriting the narrative of a generation. Healing is never a straight line. It's nonlinear, unpredictable. It begins in fragments. A tear shed in therapy, a boundary set in love, a moment of silence where you choose yourself. It's not about forgetting what hurt you. It's about reclaiming what the hurt took away. Your voice, your worth, your ability to trust again. And maybe that's what intimacy really is. Not sex, not touch, not perfection, but presence. The ability to stay when everything inside you wants to run. The willingness to listen when silence feels safer. The courage to love, even after being hurt. Because in the end, sex isn't just about bodies. It's about truth. And the most intimate thing two people can ever do is be honest. Not just with each other, but with themselves. The truth is, most people don't break because of heartbreak. They break because of silence. The silence after someone leaves. The silence in a relationship that feels full but empty. The silence inside your own chest when you realize you've been saying yes while your body has been screaming no. This silence isn't just absence of words. It's the absence of being seen. It's the feeling of lying next to someone who doesn't really know you, or looking in the mirror and not recognizing who you've become. For Gen Z, this kind of disconnection has become invisible, normalized. They call it chill, casual, no pressure. But deep down, many are suffocating under the weight of pretending not to care. There's a generation that scrolls through confessions on Reddit and therapy TikToks, trying to decode their own pain through someone else's story. They repost quotes about healing energy and protecting your peace. But inside, they're still wondering why intimacy makes them panic. Why every time someone gets too close, they pull away. Or why they keep chasing people who mirror their wounds. Because trauma doesn't always show up as sadness. Sometimes it looks like attraction. You're drawn to what feels familiar, even if it hurts. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. And when sex becomes a way to feel something, anything, it's no longer about pleasure. It's about survival. But here's the truth most people don't talk about. Healing isn't about rejecting desire. It's about reclaiming it. It's about realizing that your body isn't the problem. The shame is. Shame teaches you to disconnect from your own sensations, to mistrust your needs. Healing teaches you to listen again. To your heartbeat, your boundaries, your breath. Somewhere, someone decides they're done with performative confidence. They stop pretending they're okay with situationships that leave them hollow. They start saying no to people who only love their highlights. And in that no, in that sacred refusal, a new kind of love begins. The kind that feels like rest. The kind that feels like home. And when they finally meet someone who sees them, really sees them, it doesn't feel like fireworks. Feels like quiet. Like exhaling after holding your breath for years. That's what real intimacy does. It doesn't ignite chaos. It brings peace. It doesn't demand that you become someone else. It reminds you who you already are. Sex, in its purest form, isn't about power or performance. It's about presence. It's a language older than words. One that says, I'm here. I see you. You're safe. But that language can only exist when the noise of shame is silenced. When honesty replaces pretending. When love is no longer a transaction, but a translation of truth. And if you've ever felt ashamed, broken, or unworthy of love, know this. Your story isn't too heavy to be held. The parts of you that hurt are not unlovable. They are simply waiting to be understood. Because healing doesn't erase what happened, it gives it meaning. And sometimes the most radical act of love is not to fall for someone else, but to finally fall back into yourself.